The annual Miller family barbecue was in full swing, the scent of grilled steaks mingling with the suffocating weight of familial disappointment. I sat at the corner table, intentionally distanced from the successful members of the clan, picking at my potato salad while my brother Marcus held court near the pool. So then I told the CEO, Marcus's voice carried across the perfectly manicured lawn of our parents' estate, either we acquire them now or watch our market share dissolve. He paused for effect, adjusting his Rolex. Closed the deal for $80 million next day. The assembled relatives murmured appreciatively. Marcus, vice president of acquisitions at Sterling International, was their golden child. At 35 he had everything our family valued. The corner office, the seven-figure salary, the mansion in the right zip code. I, on the other hand, was the cautionary tale. Sarah. My mother's voice cut through my thoughts as she approached, martini in hand. Darling, come join the conversation. Marcus was just explaining his latest triumph at Sterling. I heard, I said quietly, not bothering to move from my isolated perch. Congratulations, Marcus. He smirked, breaking away from his admirers to saunter over. Still running that tiny consulting firm, sis? What's it called again? Elite Solutions. He chuckled. Bit ambitious with the elite part, isn't it? If he only knew that Elite Solutions' modest office suite was just a front. That the real operation ran from the top 3 floors of the Blackwood Tower downtown, carefully hidden behind layers of shell companies and NDAs. We manage, I replied, thinking of the encrypted laptop in my car containing our client list, CEOs, tech billionaires, and yes, even Marcus's boss, Richard Sterling himself. Not as an Elite Solutions client but as something far more interesting. You know, Marcus continued, sprawling in the chair across from me, Sterling's always looking for good people in our HR department. Entry-level, of course, but it would be a start. Better than. He waved his hand dismissively, whatever it is you're doing. Our cousin Jennifer, herself a junior executive at a prestigious firm, joined us. Marcus is right, Sarah. You had such potential at business school. Remember when you turned down that offer from Goldman Sachs? Everyone thought you'd lost your mind. They didn't know that Goldman Sachs had approached Elite Solutions last year, offering to acquire us for $300 million. I'd turned them down. Our real value was worth 10 times that, but they'd never know it from our carefully maintained modest appearance. Speaking of business, Marcus leaned forward, lowering his voice conspiratorially, something big's happening at Sterling. Richard's been acting strange lately, lots of closed-door meetings. Word is he's planning a major restructuring. I took a sip of water to hide my smile. Richard Sterling wasn't planning anything. He was following my firm's carefully crafted strategy to the letter. As of last week, Elite Solutions owned 31% of Sterling International through various proxy companies. Marcus had no idea he'd been effectively working for his little sister for the past 3 months. That must be unsettling, I offered, watching him preen. Please, he scoffed. I'm untouchable. Richard knows my value. In fact, he's probably planning to promote me to senior VP. About time, really. Our father joined us, his presence drawing more relatives like moths to a flame. Marcus was just telling me about the Anderson deal, he announced proudly. 80 million. That's my boy. The Anderson deal? I couldn't resist. Interesting timing. Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly. What do you mean? Nothing, I shrugged. Just that their stock dropped 15% last week. Unusual for such a solid acquisition. How would you know about? Marcus started but was interrupted by his phone buzzing. He glanced at it, frowned, then excused himself quickly. I knew what that message said. Richard Sterling had called an emergency board meeting for Monday morning. The restructuring Marcus mentioned? It was happening but not the way he thought. Sarah, my mother sighed, watching Marcus stride away importantly. I do wish you'd let your brother help you. This stubborn insistence on running your little business. It's not too late to join the corporate world properly. I thought about Elite Solutions' real office space. 50,000 square feet of prime real estate with a view of the city that would make Marcus's corner office look like a storage closet. About our true client list, carefully hidden behind code names and shell companies. About the fact that we didn't just consult for major corporations, we often owned controlling interests in them. Maybe you're right, Mom, I said mildly. Maybe it is time for a change. She brightened immediately. Really? Oh darling, that's wonderful. Marcus could put in a word at Sterling. Actually, I smiled, reaching for my phone as a particular notification caught my eye. I was thinking of something a bit more substantial. The notification was from my CFO. Sterling International shares secured. Current ownership 51%. Proceeding with Monday's announcement as planned. Monday morning arrived with the kind of spectacular sunrise that seemed to herald significant changes. I sat in my real office on the 45th floor of the Blackwood Tower, watching Marcus arrive at Sterling International in his BMW through my panoramic windows. He had no idea that in exactly 47 minutes his world would implode. Ms. Miller. My executive assistant, Claire, appeared with a stack of folders. The board meeting at Sterling starts in 30 minutes. Richard just confirmed everything's in place. I nodded, thinking about Richard Sterling's face when I'd finally revealed myself as the power behind Elite Solutions 3 months ago. The mighty CEO had been shocked to learn that the tiny consulting firm he'd dismissed 2 years earlier now effectively controlled his company. How's the press release looking? I asked, opening my laptop to review the morning's schedule. Ready to go. Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, and Bloomberg all have exclusives lined up. Claire hesitated. Your brother's name isn't mentioned specifically, but given his position, he'll be very publicly displaced, I finished. That's rather the point. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Weird vibe at the office today. Richard called an all-hands meeting. Probably announcing my promotion. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened the secured folder containing Elite Solutions' true client list. Sterling International was just the tip of the iceberg. We owned controlling interests in 17 Fortune 500 companies, all acquired quietly through a labyrinth of shell corporations and strategic investments. The Anderson deal Marcus had bragged about at the barbecue? We'd orchestrated that entire acquisition, using Marcus's predictable negotiating tactics against him. The 15% stock drop was just phase 1 of our restructuring plan. Claire, I called as she turned to leave, is everything set for the family dinner tonight? Yes, ma'am. Your parents' favorite restaurant, you now own it by the way, is reserved for 7 p.m. The private room has been prepared according to your specifications. I smiled, remembering all the times I'd sat in that same restaurant, listening to Marcus boast about his latest achievements while our parents beamed. Tonight would be different. My desk phone lit up, Richard Sterling's direct line. Sarah, he said when I answered, his usually commanding voice subdued. The board is assembled. Marcus is currently showing them his 5-year growth strategy, completely unaware that he's presenting to his new boss? I finished. Don't worry, Richard. Just follow the plan we discussed. I hung up and turned to the wall of screens displaying real-time data from our various holdings. Elite Solutions had grown from a 3-person operation in my garage to a shadow empire controlling over $50 billion in assets, all while maintaining the appearance of a modest consulting firm that paid the bills, as I told Marcus so many times. The clock struck 9:30 a.m. Showtime. I opened my laptop and connected to Sterling International's Boardroom video feed, another system we secretly controlled. Marcus was in full swing, gesturing at his PowerPoint presentation with practiced confidence. And that's why, he was saying, my strategy will increase shareholder value by at least 40% over the next. Richard Sterling stood up, cutting him off mid-sentence. Thank you, Marcus. But before we continue, there's someone else who should be part of this conversation. On cue, I appeared on the massive screen behind Marcus. He turned, confusion crossing his face as he recognized me. Sarah? Why are you? Hello, Marcus, I said calmly. Please continue with your presentation. I'm particularly interested in your plans for the Anderson acquisition. The deal you're so proud of closing for $80 million. He blinked. I don't understand. Why is my sister on the screen? Richard, what's going on? Richard Sterling cleared his throat. Marcus, I'd like you to meet the new majority shareholder of Sterling International. Sarah Miller, CEO of Elite Solutions Group. The blood drained from Marcus's face as Richard continued. Elite Solutions now owns 51% of Sterling International. They also control Anderson Corp, which is why that acquisition you bragged about was possible in the first place. That's impossible, Marcus stammered. Elite Solutions is just a small consulting firm that manages over $50 billion in assets, I finished for him. Though I suppose I should thank you, Marcus. Your constant underestimation made it so much easier to build this right under your nose. The boardroom erupted into chaos. Marcus stumbled backward, knocking over his leather chair as the reality of the situation sank in. The other board members were frantically pulling up Elite Solutions on their phones, their eyes widening as headline after headline confirmed their new reality. This morning's press release should be hitting now, I said, glancing at my watch. Elite Solutions emerges from the shadows, the hidden giant behind corporate America. As if on cue, Marcus's phone started buzzing incessantly, no doubt our parents seeing the news. I watched through the video feed as he struggled to maintain his composure, his perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit suddenly seeming like a costume rather than armor. You've been, all this time. He sputtered. The Anderson deal was a test, I finished. One you failed spectacularly. You were so eager to close the deal, you never questioned why Anderson's board accepted such a low offer. They accepted because I told them to. Richard Sterling, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. Marcus, your sister's firm has been advising us for the past year. Or rather, directing us. That restructuring you've been gossiping about? This is it. The boardroom doors opened and my CFO Jessica Chin walked in. Marcus had hit on her at a corporate event last year, dismissing her as just another MBA trying to play with the big boys. Now she carried the documents that would end his career at Sterling International. Ms. Miller, Jessica nodded at my video presence, then turned to Marcus. Your termination package, Mr. Miller. Given the circumstances, we're being quite generous. Marcus finally found his voice. Termination? You can't. I'm vice president of acquisitions. I closed the Anderson deal. You closed a deal that we orchestrated, Jessica corrected. Every step was choreographed. Your negotiating tactics were so predictable we used them against you. Check page 3 of your termination documents. There's a detailed analysis of every mistake you made. My phone buzzed again, mother calling for the 5th time. I let it go to voicemail, focusing instead on Marcus's crumbling facade. The family dinner tonight, he said suddenly, looking up at my screen. You planned this. You were going to humiliate me in front of everyone. Actually, I replied, I was going to offer you a chance at redemption. Elite Solutions is expanding its European operations. We need someone to handle minor acquisitions in our Rotterdam office. Starting salary is significantly less than what you're making now, but... I smiled, echoing his words from countless family gatherings. It would be a start. The irony wasn't lost on the board members, several of whom had witnessed Marcus's condescending treatment of me at corporate events over the years. Rotterdam, he choked. You expect me to move to Rotterdam and work for my little sister? No, Marcus. I expect you to finally learn the lesson I tried to teach you years ago. Never underestimate someone just because they don't broadcast their success. Jessica placed another document on the table. Your flight leaves tomorrow morning if you accept the position. Business class, of course, we're not monsters. Though you might want to check the historical stock performance of the companies you so proudly acquired. Elite Solutions has been shorting them for months. Marcus collapsed into the nearest chair, his carefully crafted world dissolving around him. Through the video feed I could see the exact moment his arrogance finally cracked, revealing the insecurity beneath. The family barbecue, he whispered. When I offered to get you an HR position. You were technically offering me an entry-level job at my own company, I confirmed. One of many ironies you'll probably discover as you review your time at Sterling International. Richard Sterling cleared his throat. The press is gathering in the lobby. They'll want statements about the change in ownership and management. Then let's not keep them waiting, I said. Jessica, please escort Marcus out through the private elevator. No need to parade him past the media. Despite everything, he is still family. As Marcus was led out, still clutching his termination documents, I addressed the remaining board members. Ladies and gentlemen, Elite Solutions has extensive plans for Sterling International. Your cooperation during this transition will be noted and rewarded. Your resistance. I let the sentence hang. My phone buzzed one final time, a text from our father. What have you done? I smiled, thinking of tonight's family dinner and the even bigger revelations to come. Marcus's humbling was just the beginning. Elite Solutions didn't just own his company. We owned the banks that financed our parents' lifestyle, the real estate firm that managed their properties, and the investment fund that controlled their retirement accounts. Claire, I called to my assistant, please make sure the private room at the restaurant is stocked with extra tissues. I have a feeling the family will need them. I arrived at La Maison d'Or at precisely 7 p.m., the restaurant's staff snapping to attention as I walked through the door. They'd only learned this morning that their modest, regular customer actually owned not just the restaurant, but the entire hospitality group behind it. The maitre d' led me to our private room where my family was already assembled. The atmosphere was thick with tension and expensive perfume. Mother sat rigid in her chair, her usual social confidence shattered. Father stared into his scotch as if it held answers. Marcus, who had apparently ignored the one-way ticket to Rotterdam, slumped in the corner looking shell-shocked. Sarah, Mother attempted a smile. Darling, won't you sit down? We were just discussing your news. Were you? I settled into the head chair, Father's usual spot. Which part? The fact that Elite Solutions controls over $50 billion in assets, or that your country club is now technically owned by my hospitality division. Father's head snapped up. The club too. Along with the bank holding your mortgages, the firm managing your investment portfolio, and the real estate company that leases your offices. I picked up the wine list, my wine list from my vineyard in Napa. Shall we order? The 2015 Cabernet is excellent. I should know I approved the blend. This is insane, Marcus burst out. You can't. Can't what? I asked mildly. Build a business empire? Acquire controlling interests in major corporations? Or are you still stuck on the fact that your little sister has been your boss for the past 3 months? What happened to you? Mother whispered. You were always so quiet, so unambitious. I laughed softly. Unambitious? Mother, I built Elite Solutions from nothing while you were all busy measuring success by the size of Marcus's office. Do you know what I was doing during all those family events I missed? Building this. Every time you called me a disappointment, I was closing another acquisition. Every time Marcus mocked my tiny consulting firm, I was buying another company. The sommelier appeared with the wine I'd already ordered before their arrival. As he poured, I pulled out my tablet and pulled up a document,